Every single time that I try to talk about this movie with someone, they don't know what I'm on about. They have no clue what movie I'm talking about. They think it's a fever dream. They think I am tripping off like 5 tabs of acid. So, in case you're not caught up by the title of the video, the thumbnail, or my channel name, I'm Stickers, and this is a Goofy movie. For those of you who have had the complete unfortunate turn of events that has led you down the path of not seeing this movie, let me break it down for you right quick. A Goofy Movie was a Disney animated short film that came out in 1995, which means it's a good decade older than me, but it's still incredibly peak. The movie itself is actually based off Goof Troop, if any of you have seen that. It's a 1992 animated show. It has like 2 seasons or something, and it stars Goofy and his son Max, and their own shenanigans and hijinks. But what about the mom? MILFs, yeah. Don't ask about the mom. Don't do it. Anyways, now I want to move to actually talking about the movie, because this movie is it's so beautiful. Everything about this movie, to me, is almost perfect. The opening scene for this movie is actually Max having a dream about this girl that he's like crazy in love with, called Roxanne. And when I was little, this part of the movie actually scared the shit out of me, because I don't even know why. It was so utterly terrifying for some reason. And then after this dream, Max wakes up and, he's late for school, his alarm clock's going off, yada, cliche movie stuff, normal things. And the Goofy walks into his room and he's like, yo, why are you freaking out, man? And he's like, oh man, it's a mess in here and it's all dirty and shit. And Goofy's sitting there and he's wearing this bathing towel around his thing like he just had a shower, and he's vacuuming with the towel wrapped around his head and everything, because, we love Goofy. He's a king. He doesn't adhere to any gender norms. Bro's feminine as shit. He's just like me, for real. This is also probably the first scene in the movie where we actually get to see like the beginning of the divide between Max and his father, in terms of how out of touch they are with each other and their generations and etc., like that type of thing. And then after this whole debacle, we have probably one of the best parts of this movie. One thing I'm going to praise this movie on over anything else you've ever seen is the opening to this story is it's so perfect. Everything they do in terms of like Disney movie standards is beyond phenomenal. This would also be like a perfect time for me to bring up the soundtrack in this movie, because it is so good. Like the song that plays in this scene, it's called After Today, and it is genuinely, it's probably my favorite song from the movie. But and the way the visuals go along with it to like make you giggle as you're watching and everything, it's like right on point. It's so perfect. And then we get to the school and we meet, Max's friends, one of which is about to be your new favorite character in all of cinema. Okay, of course we're talking about Bobby Zimmerowski. Bobby's the go for a number of reasons. The most notable one, we're talking the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Okay, of course we're talking about it. Okay, it's architecture. It's beautiful. We love it. It's made out of cheese. Okay, we'll leave it at that. And so Max and his friends, it's the last day of school. I probably should have mentioned that, on the way, some point in the movie. Anyways, last day of school, right? These guys, they're like, senior prank. I'm gonna go out with a bang. There's a popular rock character in their universe called Powerline. And so what they do is they prank the last day of school assembly with a lip-synced Powerline performance from Max. Yeah, I know, this shit doesn't seem real. But it ends up going really well, and, until it doesn't. And then inevitably, all 3 of them, PJ, which is the other friend that I forgot to mention, Max, and the GOAT, Bobby Zimmerowski, they all end up in getting detention for it. And then when they're at the principal's office for detention, Bobby, the GOAT he goes up to see the principal, and he's like, Mazer! And we love that guy, because, he's fucking chill as shit. And then we have Max mumbo dancing with the secretary for some reason, as well as the principal tells Goofy, because he calls Max's father, and he tells Goofy that his son is going to end up in the fucking electric chair, which is absolutely insane. That bro just starts pulling shit out of his ass. He's like, he was dressed like a gang member. He started a riot. And if you don't change that shit, man, he's gonna end up in the electric chair. Like, that is not something you can say to someone, friend. That is something. But, anyways, moving on. So, to cover this next section up really quickly, Goofy talks about it with his asshole friend Pete, which is PJ's dad, pretty standard stuff. You can kind of keep track of that. And then after that, he decides, I'm going to take my boy fishing, because nothing brings two, father and son together more than fishing, right? Meanwhile, Max had actually got up the fucking balls to ask Roxanne to a party that would have been happening at the same time as the fishing trip. So now you can see where the general shift actually goes in the narrative to, actually put a wedge between Goofy and Max, tremendously, and how it's going to play out throughout the rest of the movie, which is, the whole point, duh. And so after all that, Max is ready to go home, obviously, because it's the end of the day, detention's over and everything. And when he leaves the school, it turns out everyone loves him. He's the fucking shit. He is the man. The top dog, biggest dick you've ever seen. And I know I haven't said this yet, right? Because I was waiting on purpose. But when I was younger, and when I watched this movie for the first time, I was a little kid, right? And I had the biggest crush on Roxanne. For about the first 20 minutes of this movie, until we met this fucking baddie. Holy shit. And then, of course, we get the outro with the second half of After Today, after Max shoots down the baddie for whatever reason. Because me personally, if I'm him, I ain't doing that. I ain't doing all that. But, to each their own, I suppose. And he's on his way home, and he does, this whole cool skateboard scene. Bro does he goes inside of a tube, and he goes in a circle. It's so fucking sick, I'm not gonna lie. And so after Max reluctantly, of course, gets in the car to go on this road trip with Goofy, they find themselves at Five Nights at Freddy's.
Hi.
Just kidding. They found themselves at Possum Park. It's the same thing pretty much, Then, Goofy does something silly. Max gets embarrassed. Max gets angry. He sits in the car, and then they have an argument about it. And then they're really pissed at each other, It's just, they get mad. And then after that, they go camping because they need to find a place to sleep for the night. And instead of getting a motel or whatever, they just decide, hey, camping's better. And, asshole Pete comes back with this giant-ass RV and parks it right on top of Goofy. And then after that, Goofy tries to teach Max how to fish so that when they get to the fishing hole that they're going to, he'll actually be able to fucking fish. And he teaches him this perfect cast, which ends up catching him fucking Bigfoot. Everything I say about this movie, it just sounds unfucking real. It is crazy. So anyways, Bigfoot ends up chasing them, so they go and they run and they hide in the car, which they couldn't get into, so they climbed in through the sunroof, so the keys are outside of the car, and now they're stuck inside the car. And they were able to barely make it without Bigfoot actually causing any harm to them. After that, we get to see this really heartwarming Hi Dad Soup scene, which, when you watch the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. And we get to see Bigfoot hit the fucking gritty. Isn't that awesome? I fucking love that. That's so great. And then Goofy ends up falling asleep, and Max realizes that he can change the map so that he can make it so they're going to the Powerline concert in LA instead of the fishing hole. And this selfish son of a bitch, he does it. I will say, though, the art style for this scene, it's such an aesthetic. It is such a vibe. It's so pretty. I really do encourage that you watch this movie because everything about it is so pretty. The next morning, they're at a diner, and Goofy tells Max that, I trust you. I think you're a good kid, and so he gives them the power to be the navigator and choose all the stops between the diner and the watering hole before they actually get there. After a brief Call of Duty style montage of all the stops that they went to and them bonding over the course of the trip, they end up at this waterbed motel where Pete. Again, we find Pete here in the story, and Pete and Goofy are doing a Twitch hot tub stream, and he tells him all about Max being a piece of shit. Then Goofy stands up for him and then inevitably finds out that Pete was telling the truth, and then he feels like shit and traumatized, gives bro the silent treatment, and then the next day they're in the car. They're going up. There's a fork in the road. One leads to the fishing trip and one leads to LA, and you can feel this in the bottom of your asshole when you're watching. And then Max picks, obviously, the LA movement after, a long pressurized scene that is so gut-wrenching that you will feel it. I know I said that, but you will feel it, I promise. And Goofy gets pissed. He pulls over to the side of the road, leaves the car in neutral like a dumbass. Max leans up against the car goes flying over the edge. They both try to stop it. For some reason, they're climbing on top of and on the side of the car to get in, and they get in while it's going, and they end up going overboard into a river. Isn't that awesome? A really, really fast stream going down to, you guessed it, a fucking waterfall. But this gives us actually one of the much greater scenes in the movie, with the Nobody Else But You song. It's so good. It's such a good scene, and the visuals are so stunning. And after a sweet little scene of reconciliation and, Max saving Goofy's fucking life using a little callback to teaching him how to fish because he used the perfect cast, eventually they talk about, and you know what? Hey man, why are you being such a dick to me? Why are you being such a dick to me? And, Goofy finds out it's over a girl, and he's like, you know what? We're gonna get you to that Powerline concert. And so they head over to LA and somehow sneak into suitcases and find themselves inside the backstage of a Powerline concert. Then before you know it, Goofy, Max, and Powerline, they're all on stage. They're dancing to, Powerline's new hit single, Eye to Eye. And back at the party, Roxanne, she sees them and she's rizzed the fuck up through the TV. How's that even happen, man? But then eventually Goofy and Max, they make it back to town. Car is busted up as shit. Don't even know how that bitch is still running. The end of a movie, I guess it fully doesn't. But, and then Max says goodbye to, or she's like, hey, Roxanne, this is what actually happened. And he stops lying to her. And then he's like, oh, I want you to meet my dad. And then Goofy falls through the fucking roof of her house. I promise you, this shit's not real. I don't know how they come up with this shit. But, yeah, that's the end of the movie. So, like, a lot of what I gave you there was, like, a very broadened outline of what happens. I promise the movie is, like, an actual experience if you do decide to watch it yourself. Let me know what you think about it, actually, if any of you watch it. And I think if I do another video like this, because I kind of had fun making this one. If I make another one like this, I think the next one's going to be on Aristocats. I like a lot of older Disney movies, and I'd like to talk about them, because if I talk about them, then when people don't know them, I can refer them to the video and be like, hey, watch this fucking movie, because it's amazing. So yeah, that's it for me. I'm out, man. Subscribe if you like the video, liking and shit is greatly appreciated too. Just, let me know your general thoughts or whatever. I'm kind of just chilling anyways, chronically online head ass. Later.